Western medicine is designed to avert death, thankfully. Literally, if my heart stopped beating, I don't want one of me waiting at the other end of that ambulance ride. I've
Right.
said this before. This is not throwing shade on Western medicine. However, in order for them to be that focused on and emergency driven to avert death, they have to be very siloed in the way that they look at things. And we've become accustomed to being siloed in the way we look at ourselves as well. And that's not helpful
Yeah.
because unless we're averting death, we're missing something. We're not integrating our wholeness. And even by design, we're integrated. We're interdependent by design. Every organ needs another organ to do its job. So
Mhm.
why would we separate things out? And I feel like when it gets to pain, we do the same thing. And I preach this across the board to all my practitioners. Stop agreeing with people when they are in an adversarial relationship with their body.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast.
So, can you tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, who you work with, all the things, all the juice? But specifically like why you think you are who you are.
That is such a juicy question. I only have an hour
Yeah,
to answer all of that.
yeah. You
So,
could come back on too if you needed another hour to finish the
so gracious you are as a host. I love it. Okay, so the first part was who I am and what I do.
Mhm.
I'm an integrated bodywork therapist. Been in my industry for 31 years, and that's significant because most of us don't last that long. So body work includes manual and movement work. I'm both. I started as a dancer, turned into a massage therapist, went into yoga and personal training, and then in my massage therapy journey, started doing orthopedic work. So it's always been manual and movement, movement and manual, movement and manual. And I worked clinically for decades, and I wasn't I've said this in other conversations before that I was getting bored. I wasn't getting bored. I was just solving stuff.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, well, cool. Like that's cool. Let me go see what else I could do. And again, whether we're talking manual or movement practitioners, most people in either don't have a lifetime career of that. The average lifespan of a massage therapist career is 4 to 6 years. The average career path of a yoga teacher is never full time, and then fill in the gaps with, the rest that fit into the umbrella of body work. So I thought, okay, well, that's probably why. Like, I'm supposed to move on and do something else. And I did go back to school, but I never stopped being a body worker. And I went and got an interior design degree. It was super fun. I designed a condo. It ended up on HGTV, super cool.
Ooh.
And in that excitement of all the beauty of what was happening, I had a very clear voice come in, which I frequently do. So you asked, who am I and how did I get to be this way? I've always just had like a witchy sense. I could just hear other things and know other things, and I just could. And I've been asked a lot, like, how'd you know that? Were you looking at something? Did you? No, I honestly just knew. But I also hear. So I heard a very clear voice say, you can do design for as long as you want, but we asked you to do body work. And I was like, oh, okay. well, I'm going to shake up the can a little bit. And I moved to New York because why not? New York City. And while I was there, I hired a business coach who said, well, what do you do? Who are you? Typical question, kind of like what we're
Yeah.
doing now. And I said, oh, I do this thing. And this is how I, work through a treatment setting. And she's like, oh, you have a method. And I think she was also a seer because I remember she'd get this look in her eyes. Her eyes would almost turn hazel and she'd be looking at me, but kind of through me.
Mm,
And, I said, well, I don't have a method. Well, just to get her off my back, because this happened for several weeks, just to get her off my back, I agreed to go meet with an attorney at her insistence. And it was trademark, patent, and general practice attorneys. And they were like, yeah, you have something. And I was like, what? Oh my God. Like, I heard that voice before I moved to New York, but I didn't think I was signing up for all this. What the heck? And I went back to the coach and I was like, well, now what do I do? She said, you train other people. Like you have a mode of operation. It's like, oh, okay. So I still see clients and still work as a body worker. And I still love the therapy that I do. And I've expanded in lots of ways, which might be interesting. You tell me if you want me to expand on that. And I also registered this method. So now I also teach practitioners. And I was just talking to somebody yesterday who said, so it's kind of like now you have two businesses. I'm like, right. Like now I'm busier because I still wear the hat of clinician and do therapy one-on-one. And I also wear the hat of trainer and educator and,
mhm,
life coach, if you will, for practitioners to like get them, stay in the sauce. Because most of us don't have lifetime careers here, and we should. We have it. We've got this method. So that's my career history in overview summary. And to answer your second question, how did I become that? I really think I was guided. I really
mm,
lots of material to back that up. So I'm positive I was guided. I was asked to hold the torch on this one. I'm here doing that. I love it. And in the last few years, I had also gone through leadership training. So I've been doing self-development work as a lot of us have been. And I went through certification program and it was pretty intense. It was a couple years. And I remember at the end of that track thinking, oh, well, now I want to coach. Like, of course, now I want to be a leadership coach. And I remember the owner of the company, who was a very intense coach, said, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? And I thought, well, have I not proven myself? Like I'm proficient at it and I like it and it lights me up. And he looked me squarely and said, what would happen if you went all in on the thing you were doing instead of trying to come over here and do the thing I'm doing? And I was like, wow, this is the most odd job interview I've ever had. And what I realized was, oh yeah, I was still doing that thing I was doing in New York, where I was sort of hiding and wanting to not be big and proud and boisterous because I have very strong opinions and a clear voice when I speak up and results. So I get to speak about them. And so my practitioners and I have been mulling this over. And just recently we realized it's a specialty training. And that's why I needed to be all in and not appeal to the masses. And so I feel like, oh, now all the pieces are coming together. Like the mindset that goes with the high level skill, that goes with the longevity in a career that's unusual, that goes with. So I feel like it's all been a beautiful design path, but I finally showed up for the party fully.
I love stories when the pieces that seem so odd fit together perfectly. And what I'm hearing, like the gist of all of that is you're doing the work and you're teaching the work that you're doing, and therefore you are the leader. And so it's beautiful. I love your story. I would love for you to, you said you'd go in more detail if I'd love for you to do so if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. On which branch, the clinician side or the training side? Because I know now not to blur them.
I would say, if you're open and willing, could you do you share openly like what the method is?
I don't train it openly. It's proprietary, so I want to make sure that
Okay.
I keep the license clean and that everybody's safe. But the method is a form of body work
Mm-hmm.
that allows all movement and manual practitioners to get to the genesis of musculoskeletal pain and discomfort and restore it.
Mm,
Restore it meaning the human back to wholeness, so there's no pain and fluid movement. We return them to their optimal form and function quickly and easily in time for the practitioner. It's quick and easy for
right.
being reminded. My practitioners are like, this isn't easy. I'm like, it is easy. Oh, wait, but there's a learning curve. Okay, cool. Well, so
Yeah.
it's worth it. It's worth it to strive.
So with that said, I want to put the focus on the human
Mhm.
and ask you when when you are successful with a client, how does that affect their overall health, like in its entirety?
Well, it's everything, right? Like if
Mhm.
we return our bodies back to the way that we're designed, then we have high vitality and pure enjoyment in this vessel. So it ripples out to affect everything. And I don't mean to be trite about it, but if we have pain, it's distracting. And if we have limitations, it's mentally and emotionally distracting.
Yeah.
So if we eliminate all of that, well, then all we have left is our wholeness. So it affects us
Mhm.
in profound, in simple and profound ways. And it's individual based on what we're struggling with at the time and what we're striving for in our own experience this lifetime.
Mm. And so the clients that you work with, are they people who have had injuries, or are they just people that have normal pains from, maybe walking a certain way for a long period of time or not stretching properly for a long period of time, or both? Is it both?
Yeah, it's usually both. I mean, at this stage, folks come to me usually on referral after they've tried something else, fill in another type of modality,
Mhm.
and it either worked a little bit or didn't fully work or didn't work at all. And also folks who are really nervous that they can't find a solution. They've been to a lot of places and like nobody knows what's wrong. And I'm talking musculoskeletal.
Mhm.
And I just have a way, kind of like that coach, of just seeing right through it. And also the knowing that I've always had. There's always been a whisper in my ear. So I always know where to find the source. I always know where the genesis of the problem is. And so, because of that, I don't have to spend a lot of time spinning around and sort of ad hocing and trying things and crossing my fingers and hoping. I know where it is. I know how the body's designed. And so I just return that genesis back to the design, no pain.
Mm. So I want to rewind to the beginning of your
Okay.
story. Um, I mean, obviously, our what we do changes and evolves over time, even if we're still in the same work. So, what was your original reason for starting Bodywork? And is there
Originally,
is there a story behind it,
of
like in your
course,
own life? I'd love to hear it.
like back in the very beginning, like before
Yeah,
it even was,
yeah.
so funny. So, yeah, talk about, when they say the universe just will conspire and connect with you and make sure that you don't miss anything, even if
Mm.
you sort of feel like you're wayward for a minute. It felt like that. It was like, there's so many parts of the story where I'm like, you can't make this up. Like, how did that even happen? So I'll be brief about it. But I was in college, and at that point, I was the only one in my immediate family who had a college degree. So I really didn't know what the freak I was doing. I didn't know you're supposed to pick a major. I didn't know how long that was supposed to be. I just didn't know what I was doing. But I knew I wanted an education. And I was simultaneously going to massage therapy school and getting an undergraduate degree at the same time. It was a lot of schoolwork. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I knew that I wanted to have this undergraduate degree. So long story shorter, in my very conventional undergraduate track, I was looking through the catalog and I was like, oh, I want to take that course and that course and that course. And they all happened to be about the body. It was biomechanics and pathophysiology and all of these like higher level bodywork focused courses that all belonged to a major. Like you could, once you declared this major, you had the availability of this string of classes. And once you declared that major, you could have this string of classes. So like, anatomy for nurses and biomechanics for physical science and, and everything in between. And I was like, no, I want. Like,
No.
I know, like, why, how come they get to have it and I want to have it? Like, why can't I? I'm paying my tuition. I don't understand. And it was in that moment of time, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine at school, at college, and she said, well, there's this new degree. Go talk to this, such and such advisor. And I was like, a new degree? Like what? I hadn't declared a degree. What? Again, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just sort of following the yellow brick road. And I went and talked to this advisor and he said, yeah, actually there is. So tell me what you're interested in. And I was like, this course, and this course. And I'd like to try that one too. And he said, well, so you declare this major and then you get to petition at the beginning of every semester and then you can get approved for the course. I was like, tell me where to sign kind of thing. And I didn't even realize until way after graduation what that meant. It meant I was self-designing my own undergraduate degree. And right after I graduated, actually the year I was a senior, that degree track was not available anymore. It just was in that window of time long enough for me to know about it, choose it, and complete it. And then it was even scrubbed off even before I graduated. But ironically, at the end of my journey as a senior, that same advisor and I recognized that we'd made a math error. He had miscalculated how many credits I needed to fulfill this particular track. And if I didn't finish, I wasn't going to graduate probably with that particular degree. Because again, it wasn't offered. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I was so exhausted from doing both colleges, university and then massage therapy schools is college. And then cleaning houses in the middle and waiting tables at night. I was just like, I don't have it in me. Like there's no room to pack any more minutes in here. And I went to bed. Actually, I told my dad, I'm not going to finish. I'm close. I got close. I got closer than anybody to graduate. I'm good. And he was so angry and didn't really have a way to communicate clearly what was underneath the anger, or maybe I wasn't a good listener at the time. Could have been a little bit of both, but that's okay. And I remember just feeling like I was making a decision based out of fatigue, but also not clear on my decision. You know that feeling you get when you make a decision and you're like, I know there's going to be a rollout here, but I'm clear. This is my decision. I didn't have that. And I remember going to bed and in the middle of the night, I remember what time it was close to 4 a.m. My grandmother, who lived in heaven at the time, showed up. And she was like, you gotta follow your heart. You've got to follow your heart. And I knew what she meant because my heart wasn't resolved on this decision to not complete. And I remember sitting up in bed and I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks just like in the movies. Like you're beautiful and glowing and white and the dress and the white halo and the whole bit. And I said, I know this is not a dream. And I said, and I'm going to mark this down in my journal and I'm going to mark the time. And I turned to look at the clock. And when I turned back, she was gone. And I remember feeling this. I remember this moment of like, I should have been feeling deep grief that she was gone because it was so majestic. If that's ever happened to you, it's like the most incredible feeling ever. And I wanted to feel sad that she was gone, but she had filled me up with so much light and so much clarity while she was there that I actually felt joyful. And the next day I was like, I'm finishing. You can't stop me. You can't stop me. So by the time I finished my undergrad and also graduated from massage therapy school, I was already doing different work than massage therapy. I wasn't really, I mean, I do offer a great massage, but I had
Mhm.
different focuses. I wanted to like fix things and get down into the nitty gritty and ask why and see things that other people weren't seeing. And then I remember asking my clinical teacher, well, what about this and what about that? And she pulled me aside and she's like, look, I can't teach you what you're asking. You don't even have a license yet. It's not legal for me to do that, but don't stop. And I was like, what did that mean? The heck? Okay. Well, I wasn't going to because I have a whole bunch of questions that haven't been answered. I'm not going to stop. And then right after graduating, I got recruited by an orthopedic physician who was like, I've heard and I want you in my clinics. And I ran through 3 clinics. So I really had a very orthopedic start from the beginning, but it was because of my hunger and sheer curiosity about the body that led me to I was like making decisions to be a higher level trained practitioner, but I didn't even recognize myself as a practitioner yet, if that makes sense.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was sort of like guiding me in that direction.
I love that story. And I love I love that you said, well, yeah, I'm a massage therapist, but I don't remember the exact words you used, but you go into everything to understand the person that's in front of you, right? Because it's going to be different for everybody. And I think this is a missing piece in, any of our worlds. Like I'm a personal trainer, and somewhere along the way, somebody took personal out of personal training. It's like the person in front of you is different than anybody you're ever going to work with ever. And it's not just their body, it's also what's up here and their emotions, because emotions are stored in the body. And so I think the health industry would be so much better off with people who don't want to like create one program and then sell this program to a bunch of people, because then it takes away the human experience, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. We talk about, in my training academy, we talk about the Venn diagram of the human, where
Mm.
mind, body, and emotions. Like I remember back in the day when we would say mind, body, and people would scoff. Well, hello, brain is literally housed inside the body. We get
Yeah.
that they're not rolling parts out on the sidewalk somewhere. We're like, but we didn't really understand what all that meant and how they were integrated. And now we do, thankfully. Now we do. And we're complex. And we still like to silo things out, right? So, and I think that's Western training. Western medicine is designed to avert death, thankfully. Literally, if my heart stopped beating, I don't want one of me waiting at the other end of that ambulance ride.
Right.
I've said this before. This is not throwing shade on Western medicine. However, in order for them to be that focused on and emergency driven to avert death, they have to be very siloed in the way that they look at things. And we've become accustomed to being siloed in the way we look at ourselves as well. And that's not helpful
Yeah.
because unless we're averting death, we're missing something. We're not integrating our wholeness. And even by design, we're integrated. We're interdependent by design. Every organ needs another organ to do its job. So
Mhm.
why would we separate things out? And I feel like when it gets to pain, we do the same thing. And I preach this across the board to all my practitioners. Stop agreeing with people when they are in an adversarial relationship with their body. Stop blaming muscles for the problem. Oh, well, his XYZ muscle was the problem, or her ABC, previous injury was the problem. What are you doing? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Because that, to your point, Katie, it doesn't holistically connect you and the person and their body. There's 3 of you
Mhm.
in the room, I say. There's always 3 of you. So listen before quipping answers, but the adversarial relationship, really, I find it heartbreaking. Muscles don't spontaneously act like jerks. There's a reason. How about we lean in with some curiosity? I would say the same about humans. We don't just spontaneously act like jerks. How about lean in? Clearly, when someone's acting in a behavior that's less than attractive, they're hurting.
Yeah.
How about lean in and find out, how can I support you? instead of just continuing to point the finger and shaming them for the space that they're in that moment. It's the same with the body. We do it though all the time. And we sort of like, I think inherently what that does is if I'm going to blame a part of my body, I'm literally wanting to run from the house that I live in that I can't get away from. And now I've created a divide in myself, which takes us back to the days before we realized that mind and body was a thing. A mind-body connection was a thing. We can't keep separating ourselves from ourselves and expect to thrive. It won't work.
Yeah. And to your point, a lot of the physical ailments that we have are because of our traumas and are because of what's going on in our mind. And I think, I work with people on the basic level of reconnecting the mind and body by helping humans heal their relationship to food, exercise, heal their relationship to their body and to themselves. And what that does is, I work with people for a long time because it's a long journey, and it separates, how do I want to say this? It's different than just going to somebody, having somebody say, okay, you're going to eat this many macros, you're going to eat this many calories, you're going to do this, this, and this. And then over here, you're going to move this, and you're going to work out 3 days. It's so different for everybody. And, I think we get to a healthier space when we do reconnect the mind and body versus just listening to somebody outside of you tell you what to do without ever asking you how you feel in the process. If that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
From both the client side and also the practitioner side. Like, are we being seen and heard and understood and supported, or are we being told to follow a list of things to do or else, right? As a client. And as practitioners, I recognize that a lot of practitioners are so eager for the answer and nervous that they don't have it, that they want, like, what's the answer, Gina? Like, how do I do XYZ? What do I do for ABC? There's no matrix.
Yeah.
Every single one of us is a snowflake. So even if I did give you a checklist of things to do, and you could follow it, if you're following the checklist, you're not connecting with the person who's there with you. But you can't follow a checklist because my injury and the way my body navigated life and compensated for the injury is not the same as yours. Even if we had the same injury, your body and how you navigated it is not the way my body and how my body navigated it. So there's not a matrix. You got to just be connected. I say you got to be like steeped in knowledge, confident in your skill, and wildly present and connected to the person that you're with. There's no matrix. There's no checklist. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. One of the things, my coach, who has also trained me in human behavior and life coaching skills, we'd ask him a question like you said, well, what happens when this, or if this, then what? And he would say, you're asking post-action questions, pre-action. So like you want to know the answers to what to do in certain scenarios. And the only way that you're going to know these answers is if you do the work. And then you can come back and be like, am I asking the right question?
Oh, I love him.
So, yeah, me too.
Speaking my language.
I know. So, what are some, oh my gosh, what's the word? I lost it. Some similarities that you get with, a lot of your clients? Like, is there a certain ailment or pain or something that's common in the people that you see?
Is there something that's common, like chief complaint common? Like they all come with
like a certain pain, or is it just wide variety?
It's pretty wide variety. I mean, maybe this is the answer to your question. Maybe I've been so close to it, I don't realize that this is common or not as common. It's just common for me. But I would say that most people come with some version of back or hip pain. And it doesn't have to be low back. It's just back pain, back pain or hip pain. the truth about our method is that even if it's neck and shoulder or knee and ankle, it still all ties back to the sacrum. It's very sacrum centric. So, and that is a whole Pandora's box on its own, but it doesn't really matter what the chief complaint is, as long as I'm clear on what they're experiencing and I can get a full history on what their body experienced and how it compensated and like try to figure out when it started. We do a ton of training in our mastery track for really effective intakes. It's really less about what's happening today and what the person's experienced and more about what led them to today.
Mm.
So yeah, it doesn't strike me as like a common scenario that folks come with. They're in pain. I guess the common thread would be something, it doesn't feel right in their body, physical, musculoskeletal type, structural stuff. Something doesn't feel right, or it's a little bit off, or they only hurt when they do fill in the blank, go for a walk after dinner, or take a yoga class, or go for a run, but only at the 4 mile mark, kind of like they have something that seems specific to their body, but it's musculoskeletal. It's always a function or form or function problem.
Mm. This is interesting. You're the first body worker I've ever spoken to. So
What? That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, you're a body worker.
Huh?
Even though you're a body worker, I would put personal training in the realm of body work. You're working with the body
Oh,
and you're
okay.
creating results physically.
Maybe I should rephrase that to you're the first person I've worked with who's called it that. I have interviewed a massage therapist that's bodywork too, I guess, and trainers. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Although, it's so funny. I just had this conversation probably 5 times in the last 2 weeks. And I'm gonna just highlight the massage therapy license just in the instance of this conversation.
Okay.
In the world of massage therapy, there is such a wide spectrum of what massage therapist means that the end user, a client, or a fellow colleague
Mhm.
isn't even clear what the massage therapist does because of this wide ranging spectrum. And I like to tease a little bit and say, on one end, we're doing, comfortable sheets, dim lights, and burning incense. And on the other end of the pendulum swing, we're in white lab coats doing, military type orthopedic, focused work, and you're fully dressed.
Mm.
And neither one of those is wrong or bad. The idea here is, though, those two scenarios share the same title. How can the end user or even a fellow colleague possibly know what type of work I do if I keep using massage therapy and you have the alternate end of the pendulum picture in your mind? It's very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, and because of the development of this method, and you don't get undressed, and because I was also training other practitioners, and that they don't have to be massage therapists, they could be personal trainers or yoga teachers or Pilates. I've trained them all. It mattered to me to not use massage therapy all the time, to not confuse people and have them have their mirror neurons fixate on it must be this type, because it's not any type yet. It's its own type. So that's all that weighed into why I started using the term body work. And I didn't want to for a while. There's Rolfing and other forms of manual body work, and they call themselves body workers because they can't get massage therapy licenses.
Mm.
So they use massage and body work. Like my professional organization is massage and body work. That's like right in their title. They sort of umbrella them together. I have a therapy license. I'm regulated by the medical board, but I don't do the same things as other massage therapists regulated by the same medical board. So I needed to find a way to create a distinguishing enough pause so that when folks were looking for a solution, like a client, they'd been to 2 or 3 deep tissue massages already and it didn't work. And they thought my license, my title as massage therapist was the same. They would miss out on their chance to get the orthopedic end of the work that's also available with the same title, which is where I float. And I don't teach massage. So the method is not
Right.
massage, which would also confuse my colleagues into thinking, well, they can't do that because they're Pilates or personal training or yoga or gyrotonics or something. And that's not true. They can use the method because it's not massage therapy.
Mm,
It's body. So
yeah.
it's interesting how we've confused ourselves, even under the same umbrella. And I wish that there was another designation, I guess. And I know there was talk about it in the massage therapy industry, and it tends to be just as divided as the pendulum swing on the description of what we can offer with our license. Some people are like, great, finally, let's make the distinction. And others are like, what are you, higher brow? So there was a little bit of that. And we don't have a strong lobby in every state. So here we are sharing the same title for now.
Yeah. I do love the distinction. There, two things came to me when you were speaking. The distinction of the sitting in a dark room with incense, getting a massage. To me, that is, while it is body work, it is also stress relief. And so it's, at least in my experience, it's also working on my mind and calming the mind and the stress. And I love, all of the health buckets connect to each other. And so healing the body and healing the mind, and again, that mind body connection. And then another thing that came to me is like, with that distinction that you're talking about with massage therapy, it's kind of like if you ask somebody, oh, what do you do? And they say, oh, I'm a doctor. What kind of doctor? Like, what do you do? Oh my gosh, do you do physicals, or are you
Right.
a psychologist, or
A vet.
a vet?
Mhm.
Yeah. So are you like Ross Geller and you work on dinosaurs?
Right. Right. You could be a PhD doctor instead of an MD doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Also, yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not, I'm not playing the, stringless violin for the massage therapy industry. There's lots, as you're bringing up, great point. There's other industries as well that require some clarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's close to home for me on this one. If I were to say doctor, there's a matter of reverence that comes with that. If I were to say massage therapist, it depends on what state I'm in.
Mm.
Whole other rabbit hole conversation.
Well, I do have one more question for you.
Okay.
And that is, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
The world.
The world, the universe.
Mhm. The bit of advice I would give to the world is that your body is your ally in the journey. It's designed with such exquisiteness, it would blow your mind to dive deep into the details. I'm constantly in awe, even after decades of knowing it. The capability that the body has to thrive and survive and heal and repair and take care of things in such an exquisite way without us having to even be present to that is a great reminder that, of course, the universe is looking out for us because we are the universe walking around in this non-replicable, exquisite house of our own. So with that, can I make a request as well instead of just advice? The request is to treat your vessel as your most trusted loved one, to speak to it with kindness and compassion and concern, and trust it.
Beautiful beasts, Gina Schatz signing off. Until next time.